All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, it is. And, we always like to kind of shake things up a little bit here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're doing a deep dive on something a little bit different, a little bit unusual. We are only looking at one single movie review.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to see if we can get a sense of this film just based on this one review.
Okay.
So we're talking about the film Itutumba Ka ng Tatay Ko.
Okay.
And the review comes from MovieKaTicket.com.
All right.
It's kind of fun to think about. Can we actually pull this off? Can we actually get a sense of this movie?
Yeah.
From just this one little piece?
Yeah, it's like looking through a keyhole and trying to figure out what the whole room looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, and they call it an action comedy masterpiece in this review. So the word masterpiece gets thrown around a lot these days. But what do you think really elevates a film to be considered a masterpiece?
Well, I think for me, a masterpiece, it's not just a film that's technically brilliant. It's a film that captures something essential about the human experience.
Yeah.
And it maybe sparks conversation. It provokes thought. It stays with you.
Right.
Long after the credits have rolled. I mean, if you think about some of Lino Brocka's films, right?
Yeah.
They were raw. They were emotional. They reflected Filipino society in a way that really stayed with you and, made you feel. And, that's kind of a legacy that film leaves behind.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So this film, Itutumba Ka ng Tatay Ko, also happens to be Janno Gibbs' directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, talk about pressure.
Yeah.
First time out of the gate as a director.
Right.
And it, makes you wonder how his comedic background might play into his
absolutely
style, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about people like Mel Brooks, right? Who were known for their comedic acting, but also were fantastic directors. And so maybe Gibbs is going for that same kind of vibe where he's able to blend his comedic sensibilities into the action sequences, Maybe we'll see some slapstick fight choreography or some really witty visual gags. It's fun to think about.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. So the story of the film is about this single dad, Tintin.
Okay.
And he's dealing with a lot. He's dealing with a new romance. He's got a health scare. Mm-hmm. There's a crime boss involved.
Wow.
All while he's trying to protect his daughter, Tintin. So
sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot, right? Yeah. It kind of feels like, your classic hero's journey, but with like a family twist.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely taps into those universal themes that we see, across cultures throughout time. But I think, especially that single dad element adds a really unique Filipino layer, right? Because family is so central to our culture.
Yeah.
And the father figure often carries, this immense weight of responsibility. So I think this film could be exploring, that dynamic in a way that's really interesting, particularly against this backdrop of action and comedy.
Right. And speaking of kind of like classic Filipino cinema, the review actually compares this film and Janno Gibbs to Dolphy and Fernando Poe Jr.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those are some pretty big names in Filipino cinema, right?
Huge, yeah.
So do you think that this film could actually live up to that legacy?
I mean, it's definitely a bold comparison, no doubt. But, if you think about it, Dolphy's humor often had this social edge to it.
Right.
It was subtly critiquing Filipino society, but through laughter. Mm-hmm. And so could we see, Gibbs doing something similar, maybe blending social commentary into that action comedy formula?
Interesting.
And as for the FPJ influence, well, if anyone can channel that heroic charisma, I think it's Janno Gibbs.
Right.
He's got that charm.
He does have the charm.
Yeah.
Okay, so the review also mentions Xia Vigor's performance. Okay. And I'm curious, do you think that this father-daughter dynamic between her and Janno Gibbs is what really makes this film work?
I think, a strong father-daughter relationship on screen can be incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about, a film like Anik with Vilma Santos and Claudine Barreto, it was so raw, so emotional, and it just tapped into that bond that, resonates with so many Filipinos.
Yeah.
So if Itutumba Ka and Tatay Ko can capture even a fraction of that intensity,
right,
I think it's bound to be something special.
Yeah. Okay. So another interesting thing that the review points out is that the film is described as family-friendly yet action-packed.
Okay.
So how do you think that they pull off that balance?
It's a tricky balance to show.
It is a tricky balance.
Yeah, but I think the key is authenticity.
Okay.
The action needs to be exciting without being, overly violent or graphic.
Right.
The humor needs to be genuinely funny, not just slapstick for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the way that, Pixar films weave humor and heart into their storytelling.
Yeah.
And appeal to both children and adults.
Mm-hmm.
If Itutumba Ka and Tatay Ko can achieve that kind of layered storytelling,
yeah,
I think it could be a real winner.
Okay, so are you ready to grab your MovieKit ticket?
I am.
And check out Itutumba Ka and Tatay Ko and see if it really is a masterpiece.
We've explored some really interesting possibilities today, but I think ultimately the magic of film really lies in experiencing it firsthand.
Right.
So I think it'll be really fascinating to see, which aspects of the story, the performances, and Gibbs's directorial style resonate most strongly with viewers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a great point. All right. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.